The uncomfortable truth: there is a silent decay that starts exactly when you think you have finally made it. You have the career, the house, and the family, yet you feel more fragile today than when you had nothing. Why is it that the more you build, the closer you feel to a total collapse? You are 40 or 50 years old, and your mind feels like a browser with 50 tabs open, all of them freezing at the same time. Your body is starting to send you bills for decades of neglect that you thought were free, and the status you worked so hard to achieve now feels like a gilded cage. You are not living your life. You are merely managing a crisis that never ends. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius did not maintain his sanity through luck or coincidence. He used a specific set of internal rules to command an entire empire while his own world was literally burning around him. He did not write the words that guided centuries of leaders while sitting in a quiet garden or a luxury spa. He wrote them in the mud of the Danubian frontier while the plague decimated his people and war threatened his borders. Today, I am giving you his exact blueprint. These are the 7 Stoic rules to rebuild your mind, body, and heart, not as a shallow self-help fix, but as a total system restoration. If you do not take the chair of the architect right now, the cracks in your foundation will inevitably become canyons. Most people realize this far too late in the game. You have exactly 12 minutes to learn how to stop being a leaf in the wind and finally become the wind itself. We are going to stop trying to fix the facade of your life with temporary solutions and begin rebuilding the pillars of your existence from the ground up. These are the rules of iron forged for those who have lived long enough to know that life is a war of attrition. If you are tired of merely lasting, it is time to start prevailing. The architect of your future is standing right here in the mirror, and the first step is removing the debris that is dragging you down. This brings us to the first rule of the mind. Seneca's pruning. Your mind is a garden that has been overrun by weeds you did not plant, and it is time to take a blade to the overgrowth. You tell yourself that you are busy, but Seneca would tell you that you are merely distracted by the trivial. In his profound work on the brevity of life, Chapter 1, Paragraph 1, he explains that life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested. The problem is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a large part of it on things that do not contribute to our character or our peace. You are currently carrying the heavy weight of opinions from people you do not even like, and you are consuming news that you cannot influence while stressing over outcomes that have not happened yet. This is not productivity. It is a slow and silent form of mental suicide. To rebuild your mind, you must start with the brutal art of pruning. You must cut away the secondary to make room for the primary. If a commitment does not serve your virtue or your purpose, it must be removed without any mercy. Seneca argued that being everywhere is the same as being nowhere, and you have spent years trying to be everywhere for everyone else while leaving nothing for yourself. Now it is time to be somewhere for yourself. You must identify the attention vampires in your life that drain your energy without giving anything back. This includes the endless and mindless scrolling through digital feeds and the corporate dramas that do not concern your actual work and the social obligations that leave you feeling empty and resentful. Cut them out today. This pruning is not an act of cruelty toward others, but it is an act of survival for your own soul. By clearing the wreckage of triviality, you create the necessary space for clarity to return to your vision. When the noise of the world finally stops, the truth of your own conscience begins to speak. You will find that you do not actually need more time in your day, but you desperately need more focus in your hours. Occupation is the last refuge of those who have no real purpose and who fear the silence of their own thoughts. Once you have cleared this mental clutter, you will realize that a sharp and focused mind requires a disciplined vessel to carry it forward into the world. The strength of your thoughts is directly tied to the strength of the body that houses them, and you cannot expect a grand architecture to stand on a crumbling foundation. Rebuilding the mind is the first step, but the mind cannot fight a war if the body is a traitor to its own potential. As you remove the mental debris, You must prepare the physical temple for the discipline that is coming next. The clarity you have gained through pruning will now be used to forge a body that no longer hinders your progress, but accelerates it toward your highest goals. The temple of the slave athlete, the body. You have finally cleared the noise of the mind, and now you must look at the vessel that carries it through the world. For too many years, you have treated your body as either a vanity project or a nuisance that you can ignore until it begins to break down. Epictetus, who lived his entire life as a slave with a crippled leg, knew a truth that we have forgotten in our modern age of soft comfort and constant convenience. He taught in the Discourses of Epictetus, Book 1, Chapter 1, that your body is not actually your own property, but a loan from nature, and it is a tool given to you to navigate this brief existence. If you treat your health as an afterthought, you are sabotaging the only instrument you have for your mission on this earth. Stop looking at exercise and nutrition through the lens of aesthetics or how you look in a mirror, because this is not about fitting into old clothes. This is about military logistics. Your mind is the general and your body is the army. If the army has no transportation and no energy and no resilience, the war is lost before the first shot is fired. A weak body creates a narrow and fearful mind because your focus shifts from your purpose to your own physical pain and limitations. You must rebuild your physical form so it can carry your ambition into the heat of the battle without faltering. Discipline your diet and move your limbs not because you want to be admired by strangers, but because you refuse to be a prisoner of your own lethargy. When you master the flesh, you prove to yourself that the spirit is the one in command of the ship. This physical resilience is the armor you wear into the world every single morning, but even the strongest armor is useless if the heart beneath it is fragile and demanding. To truly stand tall, you must change how you relate to the people who share your life and stop demanding they be what they are not. This requires a shift from what you expect from others to what you offer them with your own strength. You are not a body that has a soul, but you are a soul that is currently hampered by a body that has been neglected for too long. Reclaim the temple today by demanding more from your muscles and less from your excuses. A rebuilt body provides the stamina for a rebuilt heart, and a heart that does not waver is the ultimate goal of the architect. You are forging a machine of virtue that does not complain when the path gets steep or the air gets cold. Every drop of sweat is a payment on the debt you owe to your own potential, and every disciplined meal is a brick in the wall of your internal citadel. You are no longer a victim of your biology, but the master of it. The strength you build in the gym and the kitchen will become the strength you use to face the storms of life with a steady hand and a clear eye. This is the foundation of the athlete of the soul, who knows that the body must be a servant so the mind can be a king. Now that the vessel is being hardened, we must address the internal fire that drives it. The heart must be rebuilt with the same precision and lack of sentimentality that you have applied to your muscles. The dichotomy of affection. The heart. We must now address the most vulnerable part of your foundation, which is your heart. You spend your nights worrying about your children and your spouse and your friends because you think that your anxiety is a sign of love. You try to mold them into versions of themselves that fit your personal expectations and your own vision of how a life should be lived. You think your love gives you the right to control their choices and their moods and their outcomes. This is the primary source of your emotional exhaustion and the reason why you feel so depleted at the end of every day. Epictetus was very clear about this in the Enchiridion of Epictetus, chapter 11, where he taught that you should never say you have lost something, but rather that you have returned it. This applies to your possessions and your career, and even to the people you love most in this world. Rebuilding your heart requires a radical shift called the dichotomy of affection. You must stop demanding that the world and the people in it act according to your personal blueprint. Your spouse is not a project to be fixed, and your children are not extensions of your own ego to be perfected for the sake of your reputation. When you demand they change for your comfort, you are not loving them, but you are loving your own idea of them. A Stoic heart loves with a fierce intensity, but without the heavy chains of possession. You love them exactly as they are in this very second, because you understand that tomorrow they might be gone and they never truly belonged to you in the first place. This is not a cold or detached way to live, but it is the highest form of presence, which we call amor fati, or the love of fate. By accepting people as they are, you remove the constant friction that is draining your emotional energy and making you bitter. You stop being a judge who is always disappointed, and you start being a source of immovable strength for those around you. This peace in your heart gives you the clarity to make the most difficult choices of all, because you are no longer reacting to the whims of others. It prepares you to filter every single action through a lens of absolute necessity, so you can protect your inner fortress. If you can master your heart, you can finally master your time and your focus. This leads us to the most powerful question you can ask yourself in the middle of a chaotic day when everyone is pulling at your sleeves. You are forging a heart that is a sanctuary for others, but a fortress for yourself. A heart that is rebuilt does not break when the world changes, because it was never anchored to things it could not control. It is anchored to its own virtue and its own capacity to love without demanding a return on investment. This emotional freedom is the true mark of a mature soul who has lived through the fire and come out tempered. Now that your heart is no longer a hostage to the actions of others, you can apply this same surgical precision to your thoughts. You are ready to face the world with the absolute clarity of someone who knows exactly where their power begins and where it ends. The No of Marcus Aurelius. The mind, the weight you carry, is often composed of things you never chose to pick up, and it is time to set them down. You say yes to meetings that could be emails, and you say yes to social gatherings that drain your spirit while offering nothing in return for your soul. You say yes to the anxieties of a future you cannot predict and the regrets of a past you cannot change. Marcus Aurelius sat at the head of the known world and realized that most of what we say and do is not essential and is merely a waste of our limited vital energy. In Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 4, paragraph 24, he writes that one should constantly ask oneself if a thing is necessary, for it is in the removal of the non-essential that we find the space to breathe. This is the ultimate filter for a life in reconstruction, and it is the only way to save yourself from drowning in the trivialities of the modern age. When you remove the unnecessary, you gain a double benefit because you do less, and you do it with a much higher degree of excellence. Think about your typical Tuesday and how much of your stress is born from things that actually matter for your character or your family. Rebuilding your mind requires you to become the gatekeeper of your own attention and to stand at the door of your thoughts with a sharp sword. You must develop a brutal and surgical no that protects your time like the most valuable currency in existence. This is not about being rude or selfish or cold to the world, but it is about being a faithful steward of the life you were given to lead. Every time you say yes to something trivial, you are inadvertently saying no to something vital and precious. You are saying no to your peace and your health and your purpose and your legacy. Ask the question before you open your laptop or check your messages. Ask it before you pick up your phone or engage in an argument that will change absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. If it is not necessary, then you must have the courage to destroy it before it destroys your day. By destroying the noise, you finally reveal the signal of your true intent. You find the silence required to hear your own conscience and the wisdom of the ages. This mental clarity is a weapon, but it is only effective if you have the grit to test your resolve in the real world outside of your comfort zone. You must prove your philosophy through your skin and your bones and your actions. This brings us to the practice of voluntary hardship, where the mind and body meet in the fire of discipline. You are no longer a person who is moved by the whims of the crowd, but a person who moves through the crowd with a fixed and steady purpose. Your no is the wall that protects your yes, and your yes is the foundation of the new man you are becoming. The fast of comfort, the body. You have found the silence of the mind, but now you must harden the shell that protects it against the decay of ease. Our modern world has become a trap of velvet and air conditioning, where every discomfort is treated as a crisis to be avoided at all costs. We have become so fragile that a late delivery, or a broken heater, or a slow internet connection feels like a personal tragedy of the highest order. This is a dangerous way to live because it makes you a permanent hostage to your own comfort and a slave to your environment. Seneca gave us a radical and ancient solution in Moral Letters to Lucilius, letter 18, paragraph 5, where he instructed us to set aside a few days every month to live on the cheapest food and wear the roughest clothes, while asking ourselves if this is truly the condition we feared. Rebuilding your body requires you to practice the fast of comfort with a deliberate and steady hand. One day a week you should choose a discomfort that tests your resolve and reminds you of your own resilience. You might sleep on the hard floor instead of your mattress to remember that your rest does not depend on a pillow. You might choose to eat only the most basic grains without the distraction of flavor or the luxury of choice. You might walk to your destination in the cold rain without reaching for an umbrella just to feel the elements against your skin. This is not about self-punishment or religious penance, but it is about liberation from the invisible chains of luxury. When you prove to your body that it can thrive on almost nothing, you destroy the power that the world has over your happiness. You realize that you are not a slave to your thermostat or your 5-star meals or your soft chairs. You become an athlete of the soul who is ready for any change in fortune that the universe might throw your way. This physical toughness prepares you for the highest form of human connection, which is the ability to see beyond your own petty needs and desires. You are ready to move from the isolation of your own comfort into the vastness of the human family, with a heart that no longer shrinks from the cold. By reclaiming your physical sovereignty, you become an unshakable pillar for those who are still trembling. In the face of minor inconveniences, you are forging a body that can endure the winter so that your mind can remain focused on the eternal spring of virtue. This is the foundation of the person who is no longer afraid of the future because they have already survived the worst that the present could offer. Your skin will become thicker and your spirit will become lighter as you shed the dead weight of unnecessary luxuries. You are now prepared to look at the world not as a collection of resources for your pleasure, but as a community that requires your strength. The cosmic sympathia. The heart you have hardened your physical shell and cleared the noise of your mind, but a fortress with no purpose is just a beautiful prison. At 40 or 50 years of age, you likely feel a profound sense of isolation even when you are sitting in a room full of people you know and work with every day. You have spent the last 2 decades chasing your own goals and securing your own perimeter. Yet the victory often feels hollow, and the silence of your house feels heavy and demanding. This is the specific crisis of the individual who has forgotten that they are part of a much larger organism and a much older story. Marcus Aurelius provides the blueprint for this emotional restoration in Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 7, paragraph 9. He writes that all things are woven together and the bond is holy, for nearly nothing is alien to another. He explains that you are not a detached fragment of the universe, but a vital limb of the great body of humanity that must function in harmony. To truly rebuild your heart, you must practice the concept of sympathia, which is the deep and rational understanding that your own flourishing is inextricably tied to the flourishing of the community around you. When you stop asking what the world can do for your personal comfort and start asking how you can be useful to the person standing right next to you, the heavy weight of your own ego begins to dissolve. This is the actual remedy for the midlife fatigue that is currently draining your spirit and making you feel old and tired before your time. Service is not a moral chore or a religious obligation, but it is a scientific restoration of your own internal peace and your sense of belonging. You must look at your family and your colleagues and even your competitors not as obstacles to your personal success, but as the very reason for your existence as a rational and social being. By becoming a source of strength for others, you inadvertently find the strength you thought you had lost forever in the pursuit of selfish gain. This connection to the whole gives you a perspective that transcends your small daily. struggles, and prepares you for the ultimate shift in vision. You are about to move from the narrow and suffocating view of your own backyard to the vastness of the cosmos itself, where your ego has no place to hide. This is the heart that no longer beats for itself, but beats in rhythm with the universe and the needs of the collective. You are forging a spirit that is unshakable because it is no longer centered on the fragile I, but on the eternal we. This expansion of the heart is what allows you to face the end of your life with the same dignity that you faced the beginning of your journey. You are now ready to see your life not as a series of events, but as a single point in an infinite field of light. The view from above, integration final. You have pruned your mind and hardened your body and opened your heart, yet you are still prone to the sudden vertigo of daily life. You still feel the sharp sting of a bad investment or the quiet anxiety of a new gray hair in the mirror. This happens because you are still looking at your life through a microscope that magnifies your troubles and hides your potential. Marcus Aurelius practiced a mental exercise called the view from above, which he describes with great clarity in Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 9, paragraph 30. He tells us to look down upon the earth and see the countless herds, and the various ceremonies, and the ships at sea, and the storms and the calms. When you zoom out to the edge of the atmosphere, your mortgage literally disappears. Your professional rivalries become invisible. Your greatest fears are reduced to a single grain of dust in an infinite desert of time and space. This is not meant to make you feel small or insignificant, but to make you feel profoundly free. You are currently rebuilding a life that will eventually turn to ash, and that is the most beautiful reason to build it with excellence right now. The only thing that survives the zoom is your character. The only thing that remains visible from the heights is the quality of your virtue in this very moment. By seeing the scale of the cosmos, you realize that your problems are not your identity. They are merely the passing weather of your existence. Once you understand the vastness of the stage you are standing on, you can stop acting like a victim and start acting like the hero of your own story. This perspective is the ultimate integration of everything we have discussed because it connects your smallest habit to the rhythm of the stars. It turns your daily struggles into a sacred duty to your own potential. You are now ready to step back into the world as a completely different person with a foundation that cannot be shaken by the trivialities of the day. The blueprint is in your hands and the foundation is set. It is time to make the final decision that defines who you will become. You are no longer looking at the cracks in the wall, but at the strength of the stone you have placed. This view allows you to endure the unendurable and to find joy in the mundane. Your life is no longer a series of accidents, but a deliberate construction of the soul. From this height you see that failure is just a lesson and success is just a responsibility. You have integrated the mind and the body and the heart into a single weapon of virtue. The restoration is complete and the architect has finished the plans. Now you must walk through the doors of the temple you have built and live according to its rules. Every breath is a chance to prove the scale of your vision. You are an inhabitant of the cosmos, and your actions must reflect that dignity. The trivial has lost its power, and the eternal has taken its place. You are ready for the final word. Finally, you stand at the threshold of a new architecture for your soul, and the blueprints have become your reality. You have journeyed through the painful restoration of the mind and the deliberate hardening of the body and the radical opening of the heart. You have seen your life from the height of the stars and realized how small your fears truly are in the grand mechanism of the universe. But the true test of this philosophy is not how you feel right now while you listen to these words in the safety of your current space. The true test is how you will act 5 minutes after this video ends and the world begins to demand your attention once again. This reconstruction does not happen in a single weekend seminar or a luxury resort or a temporary retreat from reality. It happens in the mundane and gritty moments of your daily existence when no one is watching, and no one is there to applaud your progress. It happens when you choose silence over an argument that serves only to feed your ego and your pride. It happens when you choose a simple meal over a feast of distractions, and when you choose the hard floor over the soft bed to remind yourself who is in charge. It happens when you look at your children and see them as they are, instead of how you wish they were to satisfy your own vanity. These are the quiet and invisible victories that build a foundation of iron that no storm can ever wash away. Seneca writes in Moral Letters to Lucilius, Book 1, Letter 1, Paragraph 1, that you should hold every hour in your grasp and that you will not depend on tomorrow if you lay hands on today. You have spent too many years reacting to the world like a dry leaf in the wind, but now you have become the wind itself. You are the commander of your own ship and the absolute master of your own fate in this brief flash of time. Do not wait for the perfect moment or the right alignment of circumstances, because the perfect moment is a myth created by the fearful to justify their own stagnation. The only moment you truly own is this one right here and right now. You have the clarity of Marcus Aurelius and the logic of Epictetus and the fire of Seneca burning within you. Use them to light your path through the darkness of the unknown. Rebuild the pillars of your life with the same intensity and focus you once used to build your career or your social standing. Turn your fatigue into a sharp focus and your resentment into an unshakable resilience. You are no longer the person you were when you started this video, and you can never go back to the ignorance of the past. You are an architect of virtue, and the world desperately needs the strength you have discovered today. Go out into the chaos of the city and be the calm center of the storm. Go into the dark places of your own life and be the light that guides others to safety. The foundation is set, and the bricks are ready, and the mortar is dry. The architect is you, and the work of a lifetime is calling your name. Begin now, and do not look back at the rubble you have left behind. Your legacy is not what you leave for others, but who you become in the process of living. Step into the sun and let the world see the man who refused to break. The reconstruction is finished, but the life of virtue has only just begun. Go forth and conquer the only thing that matters, which is yourself.